There are a lot of deaths in the 7 Harry Potter books, some satisfying, but also some heartbreaking. Today I'm going to look at every single one of them and rank them on how much they hurt me. Obviously this is my own experience when reading the book, so it's my opinion. I'm sure everybody has their own ranking, but this is mine. Now, the rules. The death must have happened during the 7 books or must have been described in detail exactly how it happened. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking and sharing. It will greatly help to grow and sustain the channel. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social medias, all of which are linked down below and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now that I've said that, let's get into it. In last place at number 38, I have Lord Voldemort. Voldemort's death is the one moment in the entire series where I felt nothing but pure satisfaction. This was the person who murdered countless innocents, tore apart families, and terrorized the wizarding world for decades. When Voldemort's body hit the ground, lifeless and ordinary, it wasn't tragic, it was justice. At number 37, right behind her master, I have Bellatrix Lestrange's death. This character pissed me off more than any other character in the 7 books. She was the person who tortured Neville's parents into insanity. She was the one who killed Sirius Black, who took such sadistic pleasure in causing pain. Her death at the hands of Mrs. Weasley, "Not my daughter, you bitch," was one of the most satisfying moments in the entire series. She deserved what she got. At number 36, I have Peter Pettigrew, or Wormtail's death. Wormtail is the most despicable coward in the entire series. The silver hand that Voldemort gave him as a reward for his loyalty became the instrument of his own destruction, symbolizing once again that his disloyalty is what defines his character. Pettigrew spent 13 years as a rat, and he died like one. His betrayal of James and Lily Potter sealed his fate long before that silver hand closed around his throat. At number 35, I have Nagini's death. Nagini's death was necessary, brutal, and satisfying. This wasn't just a snake. This was a piece of Voldemort's soul that had killed countless victims. When Neville beheaded Nagini, I felt no sadness for the serpent that had terrorized Bathilda Bagshot and nearly killed Arthur Weasley. Obviously, Nagini's character gets a little bit more complicated with the Fantastic Beasts films, given the fact that she's a maledictus and was actually a really nice human being, but we'll never really know where Rowling was going with her character, so I'm just gonna base this on how she was in the 7 books. And there, she deserved to die. At number 34, I have Quirrell Quirrell's death. Quirrell had Voldemort on the back of his head, a choice that he willingly made. So his death meant Voldemort's temporary defeat, and I would trade Quirrell's life any day to stop Voldemort, so I felt nothing when he died, especially considering the fact that he was trying to kill Harry. At number 33, I have the Basilisk from the Chamber of Secrets. This beast's entire existence was simply to kill Muggleborns. The creature hunted them for Harry's entire second year, hopeful that he could murder one of them. And though it wasn't successful in the 90s, the beast did kill 50 years before that. RIP Moaning Myrtle. So taking that into account, I wanted that thing to die, and I especially wanted Harry to kill it just to spite Tom Riddle. At number 32, I have Vincent Crabbe's death. This one might have made me feel at least a little bit, considering that we knew him so well and basically followed him through his whole schooling career. But right before Crabbe died, he shot a killing curse at Hermione, so I'm kinda glad he died. Especially because he started the fire that took his life. He set up his own demise. Also, for you movie fans, the film switched Crabbe's part in the Room of Requirement with Goyle because Crabbe's actor was fired after some legal trouble that he got into, hence why Blaise Zabini is just randomly there. He replaced Goyle and Goyle replaced Crabbe. But anyway, Crabbe was the one who shot the killing curse, started the fire, and died. At number 31, I have the Goblin Griphook's death. Griphook straight up left the trio for dead, whether they died at the hand of the dragons or by the hand of Voldemort when they were captured. Stealing the sword from the trio was what ultimately killed him though, so he had it coming. He could have tried to escape with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but instead he stayed back with the sword and he was in the room when Voldemort had his violent murder streak. At number 29, I have Aragog the Acromantula. Aragog's death is interesting because it affects me only through Hagrid's grief. The Acromantula had been willing to let his children eat Harry and Ron,
but I cannot deny them fresh meat when it wanders so willingly into our midst.
But seeing Hagrid's genuine sorrow at his old friend's funeral made Aragog be the first death that actually made me feel something other than satisfaction. At number 28, I have Emmeline Vance. Emmeline Vance represents all the unnamed heroes who died fighting Voldemort. We barely knew her, but she died as a member of the Order of the Phoenix, which makes me feel something knowing that she died fighting for what was right. At number 27, I have Bathilda Bagshot's death. The way Bathilda died must have been horrific, so I definitely felt some fear and pity when told about her death. But the fact that we didn't meet her until she was already dead, plus the fact that the way we found out coincided with Harry and Hermione almost dying, it made her death not as bad compared to others on this list. At number 26, I have the Goblin Gornuk. We knew very little about him, but the one thing we did know was that he did not mention the Sword of Gryffindor sent to the Gringotts Vault was not the real one, simply to spite the humans and moreover Voldemort, so that made me like him a little bit more, but hearing about his death didn't affect me enough to put him any higher than this. At number 25, I have Dirk Cresswell. Again, we didn't really know him, but he seemed really nice when we overheard his conversation with Dean Thomas, Ted Tonks, and the Goblins. So hearing about his death was sad, but it didn't really make me feel too much. At number 24, I have Bertha Jorkin's death. Bertha's death is horrifying when you hear the details. She was tortured until her brain was essentially mush, then murdered when she was no longer useful. Though she had little page time, the fact that she was so innocent and the fact that she suffered for so long before dying made her death more impactful to me. At number 23, I have Frank Bryce. The fact that we were from Frank's perspective when he died makes this worse. Outside of this POV, this never really happened again, that being watching someone die while in their perspective, besides when Harry sacrificed himself, but he came back unlike Frank. So to me, I think that definitely set Frank's death apart from some of the others on this list. At number 22, I have Moaning Myrtle. She might be annoying at times, but hearing how her death came at the hand, or should I say, eye of the basilisk, it was very terrifying when she told us about her death. And when she told us, we also found out that the reason why she was in the bathroom was because she was crying after being bullied, and that just makes me feel even more badly for her. At number 21, I have Rufus Scrimgeour's death. Scrimgeour's death sort of undid everything we thought we knew about him. Yes, he was a politician first, but when it mattered most, he died protecting Harry. He could have given up Harry's location under torture, but he didn't. His death transformed him from a stubborn minister to a true hero of war, which gets to me every time I hear the line about his death, and also Harry's reaction to finding this out. At number 20, I have Amelia Bones' death. Amelia Bones' death hits harder because we see her kindness during Harry's trial. She's the one voice of reason in a corrupt ministry, and her fairness toward Harry made her murder all the more tragic when we heard about it. So when Harry heard about her death, it affected not only Harry, but us as readers as well. Plus, knowing that Hogwarts student Susan Bones, who was mentioned many times, would lose her aunt because of this murder added another layer of sadness. At number 19, I have Regulus Arcturus Black, or RIB. Though he's merely a footnote in the series, hearing about his death and his redemption definitely made me feel something when it was described in detail. Being pulled down by Inferi is a horrifying way to go, and knowing that nobody would ever know about his redemption and would always think he was a pathetic Death Eater who was a coward really saddened me and made me feel more when going over his death. At number 18, I have Charity Burbage. Charity Burbage's death is one of the most disturbing in the series. She was suspended above the Malfoy dining table, pleading for her life while Voldemort delivered a speech that just made fun of her. Her death is drawn out and horrifying. We feel her terror, her desperation, and her complete helplessness. And when she begs Snape to help her just before being struck,
Severus, please. We're friends.
It gets to me every time, despite barely knowing her. At number 16 and 17, I have the Pruitt brothers, Fabian and Gideon. The Pruitt brothers died as heroes, taking on a whole army of Death Eaters single-handed. Like Regulus, their deaths were merely a footnote, but I always get chills when Moody tells this tale. And their deaths gain emotional weight when you think about how things could have been had they not been killed. Molly would have her brothers in her life, and the Weasley kids would have two great uncles. and that's something I always think about when it comes to their characters. At number 15, I have Ted Tonks. Though we didn't know him too well, Ted Tonks' death hits me like a punch to the gut because of how sudden and unexpected it was. Nymphodora's father, a man who seemed safe from the war's worst horrors, was murdered by Snatchers simply for being a Muggleborn. And worst of all, he died before being able to be a grandfather to his grandson Teddy. At number 14, I have Lavender Brown. Lavender's death isn't confirmed, but it's very heavily implied, so that's why she made this list. This implied death hits harder because we knew her so well. She was in all of the books, she was in Harry's classes, she had been Ron's girlfriend, and she was a constant presence. So seeing her go when we knew her so well was definitely more emotional than every other death we've gone over so far. At number 13, I have Colin Creevey's death. Colin's death might be the most unfair death in the series. He was underage and he wasn't supposed to be at the Battle of Hogwarts, but he snuck back to fight anyway. His hero worship of Harry, though annoying at times, led to great bravery and giving his life on the battlefield to protect his hero. And when Harry found Colin's body, the guilt and grief he felt just made the death so much worse. Given how young and innocent he was, it's one of the reasons why it hits me in the gut so hard. At number 12, I have Alistair Mad-Eye Moody's death. This one could have been higher had we actually seen it, but even though we didn't, this death was still very emotional. Bill dropping the shocking truth that the greatest Auror of all time had been killed.
Mad-Eye's dead.
It shook me to my core. It makes you think that if Mad-Eye could die, nobody was safe. And it gets worse when we discover that his body was snatched up before the Order could get to it, leading to Umbridge despicably using his eye to spy on her workers in the Ministry. Luckily, Harry stole it from her and gave Moody a small burial, which made his death hit even harder later in the book. At number 11, I have Cedric Diggory's death. Cedric's death changed everything. Up until this moment, Harry Potter was still somewhat of a children's series. Yes, there was danger, but good people didn't die. Cedric's murder shifted the entire tone of the series, and for that, it hit me very hard, not only with sadness, but with shock. At number 10, I have Severus Snape's death. Snape's death is complicated because both our feelings and Harry's feelings about him evolve over the course of the series. We hated him through most of the books, and when he died, we still thought that he had murdered Dumbledore. The writing when Harry goes up to him paints this perfectly. Harry took off the invisibility cloak and looked down upon the man he hated. Initially, I think I felt a bit of satisfaction when he died, but then we get to the Prince's Tale, and we see Snape's love for Lily, his remorse, his years of dangerous double agent work, and this makes his death become much more tragic, even if it wasn't that impactful upon seeing him actually pass. At number 9, I have Hedwig. Hedwig's death was so sad. She's not just Harry's innocent owl, she's his connection to the magical world, his first friend, his constant companion through 6 years at Hogwarts, and his only tie to the magical world while at the Dursleys. In the book, she was hit by a killing curse and fell to the bottom of the cage, which I think is way worse than in the movie. Having her just sit there dead while they rode away made my skin crawl. I actually do prefer the movie's version as she died protecting Harry, but I still think that her death in the book hit me way harder. At number 8, I have James Potter. James's death gains emotion from how we experience it. We actually see it happen, but through the eyes of his murderer, Voldemort himself. We see him face Voldemort without a wand, trying desperately to buy time for Lily and Harry to escape. Lily, take Harry and go. It's him. Go, run. I'll hold him off. These might be the most heroic last words in the series, and it gets to me every time. At number 6 and 7, I have Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks. Their deaths hurt because of what they represent. A love story cut short, a child left orphaned, a cycle of tragedy repeating. We're so distracted and focused on Fred's death that I just didn't expect them of all people to be lying there dead. We just see their bodies lying side by side in the Great Hall, and we know that little Teddy Lupin will grow up without his parents, just like Harry did. Their deaths feel cruelly unnecessary, which makes them all the more painful. At number 5, I have Lily Potter's death. This one is slightly sadder than James's death because of what it represents. She jumped in front of her son Harry and refused to step aside, and this sacrifice gave Harry protection through the love of his mother. One of the main reasons why it's above James and also Lupin and Tonks is because it has a looming presence throughout the whole series, meaning the pain of it is brought up time and time again. And then when we're forced to live through the whole murder in the last book through Voldemort's eyes, it is absolutely gut-wrenching. At number 4, I have Albus Dumbledore's death. Dumbledore's death is devastating because of how it happens and what it means. Harry watched helplessly under the invisibility cloak as Snape killed the greatest wizard of the age. Just like with Moody, if Dumbledore could die, nobody was safe. It was also so unexpected given who Dumbledore was and given who killed him.
Avada Kedavra.
Him being the one to shoot the killing curse added anger on top of my sorrow, which is why I think it made me feel much more and is why he ranks this high. At number 3, I have Dobby the House Elf. Dobby's death is just pure emotional devastation. He died a true hero, sacrificing himself to save the trio and all of the others from Malfoy Manor. I think one of the reasons why this hits me so hard was because it was played out immediately. They escape, they see that he's stabbed, they see the seriousness of what was happening, we hear Harry yelling, desperate to save him, and we see Dobby die in Harry's arms.
Dobby is happy to be with his friend.
Luna closing his eyes, and Harry's decision to dig Dobby's grave by hand and without magic made it even worse. And then, when we get to what Harry put on his gravestone, the words, "Here lies Dobby, a free elf," just broke me down. At number 2, I have Sirius Black's death. Sirius's death ranks this high simply because of Harry's reaction. Harry had finally found a real parental figure, someone who gave him a connection to his parents, and someone who gave him unconditional love. And then, in an instant, Sirius was gone. Harry's denial, his desperate screaming, calling out to his godfather, his need to chase after him through the veil, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Sirius's death doesn't just kill a character, it kills Harry's hope for a normal family, which just devastated me. And finally, at number 1, I have Fred Weasley's death. Fred's death is the most emotionally devastating moment in the entire Harry Potter series. It's so cruelly timed. Fred had just reconciled with Percy, the family was together again, and in his last moments, he was laughing with his older brother. Then, boom. Everyone's reaction made this way worse. Unlike Sirius's death, where it was just Harry's reaction, this time it's Harry, Ron, Hermione, Percy, and later the whole Weasley family's reaction. Percy and Ron crying over Fred's dead body was almost unreadable. And the description of Fred's dead body is what kills me the most. The ghost of his last laugh still etched upon his face. From Voldemort's satisfying demise to Fred Weasley's heartbreaking end, J.K. Rowling proved that she was willing to put her characters and us through absolute emotional hell to tell her story. And I'll leave you with these words.
What's the lovers never really leaves. And you can always find it here.